right, you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Good morning, Tartaria, Australia. I say morning, evening, actually, because you all watch it at Friday night.
That's
Hey,
true.
Campbell.
Yes. Well, our American friends might get it in the morning, so good day to you all around the realm.
Oh, Cam and I've had a very busy week this week, and all leading up to the Rockhampton show next weekend. So, very excited to head down to Rocky and
Yes.
meet our far north Queensland crew.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. So we've been, yes, getting the final touches on that, and the newspaper is going to be sent either starting today or next week. We had a bit of a delay in getting some of the stuff we needed to get it out. So unfortunately, it's a little bit late, but it's coming. It's worth the wait. It's a good one. There's a little surprise in that one, isn't there?
Yeah, it's stressful owning a publishing business. Okay, what happened? Podcast to publishing. Okay, but we're wrapping our heads around it, and it's exciting. This weekend's going to be busy, and then we're heading down to or up to Rocky, and that's super exciting. So looking forward to that. Tickets on sale on the website. If you are in Queensland, even if you're in Brisbane, it's worth the trip, man. It's only 7 hours. We're doing it. We're driving. It's
Yeah,
six
we're
hours from
driving.
Mulaney, so
You can
we're
catch the
excited.
train up as well. We did
Oh
that last
yeah,
time. You can catch the
that's true.
train.
The train's nice.
Yeah, it was a pretty good trip, I thought.
Yeah, I mean my scone wasn't very nice. I remember that, but because
Oh,
I'm a big fan of Devonshire teas.
yeah, the food's pretty crappy. Take your own. But it's interesting, like training up there, the landscapes.
Yeah,
Remember, we were just looking out, and it was just giant tree stumps and pyramids, like just popping out of the landscape the whole way up. It
yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. If you've never seen Rocky, it's a good excuse for next weekend. And there's heaps of accommodation there as well. Rockhampton has so much accommodation. We were surprised. So yeah, if you feel inspired to join us, come and do it. We'll do the show on Saturday. We'll have dinner together somewhere Saturday night if you want to join us. And on Sunday, we'll do something else. So it's a full weekend of just hanging out with the community. And that's cool and
Brilliant.
fun and worth the trip.
Definitely,
And I don't
definitely
think
is.
we'll be back to Rocky for a while after this, Cam. I think a couple
Yes.
of years after this.
Yeah. Well, it's been a couple of years. I think it was 22, was it
Yeah.
22 or something like that when we were there last time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it is a cool little town, and it's kicking off our tour, our Australia plus New Zealand tour. So all the dates on tartariaustralia.com.
So funny.
Seven
I feel
gigs.
like we're C grade old rockers from the 80s who are
Well,
ending up in RSLs.
yeah, I think we need like one of those photos
It
that makes
cracks
us
me
look
up.
like old rockers cruising
Yeah,
around.
yeah. You
Might
know
even
where you
hold a
kind of know who
guitar.
they are, but you don't really
Yeah,
remember, but
they
you
kind of
kind of
look
like.
familiar.
But it's pretty cool that that's sort of happening within the fucking truth community. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
and well, what a fucking crazy week. I think, this week in the
Well,
world, there's been a lot of people starting to reconcile, what we've all kind of known for a long time now. And, I've got some people around me who are, they're intelligent, wonderful humans that I work with Carbonate, who are sort of in the vets or who have never bought into anything I have had to say and our worlds have never collided. But many, many dinner parties around the campfire, many, many parties where, we've been in good, healthy debate. Well, I have to say their lives have really, really fallen apart this week. They have, and I was surprised with the reaction because I forget Cam because it's
well,
been so integrated into our reality for so long
mm,
the impact that something like these files being released actually is having in the broader world. It's pretty
mm.
big.
It is. Yeah, I've seen some videos. There's a lot of people that you can see they're finally understood that they're all worse than we could even imagine, right? And this stuff is going on, and it's all of them. It's all the our lights, right? The polys, the entertainment industry, all of them. And yeah, I've seen some people like really, you can see their brains have been cracked, which
Yeah, it
I
really
mean,
shocked
in the long
them.
run, it is good, right? Because when people start to see it, that's what we need, right? Because, as a that's a baseline. Humans abhor that stuff, right? We're good, we're good people, good beings, and that kind of stuff. When people understand it's real, it really changes everything, right?
Oh, yeah, it's really affected them. And I've had a few emails that I would never normally receive. And at first, I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know why they wanted to chat. And then I realized what was going on. And it was all around this. And it's really deeply affected them. So hearts out to the world because even though I keep hearing that this is just a distraction, I actually believe that. I'm like, yeah, from what? We know there's always going to be a million layers that are going on, and at any minute they're going to do something else that's shite. But this is not a distraction. This is, what everyone's been sort of. This is this is a form of disclosure. I mean, hello, I'm seeing my mainstream friends super impacted. This is disclosure.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's starting to look that way. I mean, I definitely said, it could be a distraction and watch out and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, even if it is, the impact that it's having is not obviously going the way they want. Like people are really, looking into this and taking it to heart and understanding it. And I've heard, I don't know, but I've heard it's not really being played on the mainstream. It's really just on social media where
Really? Oh, social media. It's
yeah,
not on the main, not on the news.
I don't watch the news, but that's what I
It
heard.
has to be because my parents know about it.
Your parents know about it. Well, maybe
You
you
should
do.
ask your
Let
mum.
us
She
know.
knows
Yeah, I
about
should
it.
ask my mum.
Yeah.
What does she think about it? Yeah.
I mean,
But
yeah, seriously.
it's crazy. And we watched well, I didn't see most of it, but The Mind Unveiled, where
That was really good.
and obvious too, right? When you think about it. But these are the same people. Like, what do they deal with? And there's all this stuff about cloning coming out, and what do we see in the 1850s, right? With all the orphans
Yeah.
and the trains and the incubators.
Yeah.
This seems like the same line of people doing the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's been going on for so fucking long, Cam. Like, I mean,
The whole
this is
epoch, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we've got to remember, like, this has been going on for friggin' ever. Like, these images are from the friggin' God knows when.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, and I think that's probably the most profound thing that's going to come out of the files is that we're actually looking at something that is historically been going on and on and on. And Jeffrey Epstein is just, he's just the face of it today. But, it's been going on through reset and reset and reset. This is a big thing. And I think
Mm.
we're going to see, I think the extent of that will be a big part of the
And who else is out there? Because I don't think Jeffrey, a lot of
ha.
people are trying to paint him as the kingpin and all this, but I don't think he is. I think that he was just a way that they cracked into that whole network, right? And all their emails basically. So, there's no doubt other islands out there, right? And of course we've spoken a lot about the ocean and bad things coming from the ocean. And it's interesting they're all on islands out in the ocean. And
Yeah.
well, I did do some research and I couldn't really get anything out of the internet, but submarines, we all know at least that Ghislaine Maxwell is a submarine pilot, right? So what are they doing out under the water out there? And by the way, did you see they released a photo of Ghislaine Maxwell?
Oh, did they?
And it's a completely different person,
All right, what?
as it always is. I think I, I don't think I don't know. Did they let her out of jail or something? I haven't really looked into it. I just saw some videos showing the photos. And, so yeah, she just, completely different eyes and nose and face shape and like they do all the time. So what's all that about? Because that happens so often, right?
Yeah.
Like we saw it like Biden, that was a good one. He was a completely different dude with different ears and different nose. Like it's such a, what's going on? We just don't know still, right? Is it cloning? Are they vampires? Are they shifting, souls into other bodies? What's going on with them? Or is it all of the above? There's some weird shit going on with the way people look. There's a reverse aging, right? Like Mrs. Kardashian and what's that other one? That other
Yeah.
American. but Betty, no, not Betty Crocker, one of them. But the reverse aging, like what is that the achrome and then the sudden aging, right? Is that lack of the achrome or is that it's very weird. I saw Ellen on a video, um, I don't know, talking about ice, I think, but yes, she's definitely aged in the last 5 years. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's horrible.
She's
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, potentially maybe we'll never know the extent of the weirdness
which
around
could be
this
good.
non-human species that
Mm.
runs our world. And, we just might have to be okay with that. But like from our perspective, we know that they're not human. Like we know that. Like that's something I think baseline we can agree on. There's non-human um, rulers on this
Entities, yeah.
realm, and we're in this weird world where they basically operate and control our existences. But to keep it into perspective, as usual, we have to remember that they're only controlling the system. They're only controlling the system. They can't control our beautiful imaginations. And like, you got to check in and how bright your imagination is operating. Like, we've got a whole natural world out there. 95% of the earth is part of the natural world. And within that, we always have the freedom to, enact our imaginations in any way that we want. Like we have
Mm.
to remember that as this crazy, unstable, uncertain, diabolical system starts to dissolve in front of our eyes. And man, I have to say, like, it's causing a lot of new people to sort of like question. And so we've got a whole new level of mistrust going on that's not been there before. And it's a second layer, I guess, after COVID of people actually starting to understand that this is not a trustworthy or stable system that they've plugged into. And I don't know what replications, is that a word? Replicate. Oh,
Oh,
say the word. Oh no, I've
what?
blanked out. That's funny. Um,
I know what you're thinking of, but I can't remember it either.
oh my God, how funny. But I don't know if we're going to see any of that. I don't know if we're going to see anything actually be affected, although I saw last night that Prince Andrew was arrested. Is that correct? That was on the news
Oh,
last night. Whatever it means, it
interesting.
doesn't mean much to me because the system is an entire system that's entirely run by them. So
Mm.
it doesn't mean much on what's going to happen as a result of this, but the level of
Yeah.
mistrust is going to mean a lot.
Yeah. Well, we know they protect their own, right? I saw, on this Ghislaine Maxwell video, they were showing like there's hardly any video of her in jail, and what there is, it doesn't look like her, and you can't see the face. And so, has she ever been to jail? And that's the thing. These people aren't going to prosecute their mates and do this. But through all this research and knowing, that we've been invaded by demonic entities and all this, there does seem to be some background good, whether that's like an organization or whatever, I don't know. But basically, just because the
It's
elites,
called
man,
humanity, Cam. It's called
yeah, well, it
humanity.
might just be the energy, right, of the good humans that
Yeah, hello, of
affects them
course.
because they try so many things that fail, don't they? And everything they've done since COVID has basically exposed them more and more when they've done it to try and cement their control more and more. So there's definitely something else going on. It's not just us stuck in this prison planet, controlled by, totally controlled by all these elites because they just would have been so much further along, I think. So there's that. But obviously, with everyone waking up, there's going to be a lot of confused people. There's going to be a lot of angry people. So, be nice to people, be nice to each other, help anyone
Yeah.
out, try and,
They're definitely going to invoke a Christian Islamic sort of
this is the
crusade, I
plan, the
suggest, a
last
war.
war.
Yeah.
Mm,
Which I mean they're all leading up to, but again, it's part of their system, right? And here we stand, not part of their system, like not buying into it at all. And there's fucking millions of us.
mm.
And humanity is good and it shines a potent light. And doesn't matter how the system dissolves in front of our eyes or strengthens in front of our eyes. It doesn't matter because it's not like we lose our choices. It's not like we can be contained. We still have the fortitude and the spirit in us to gather and do cool shit. Like we still have that. And like now more than ever, our beautiful bombastic imaginations like need to be sort of tended to and cared for and enacted. And
Mm.
I mean, that's always my biggest solution is, remember all the shows we did on the biggest dream wins, Cam? The
Yes,
biggest dream
yes.
fucking wins. And
Biggest dream does win for sure. And this is this thing I said it lots, and we all say, everything's energy. We create our reality, and but are we living like that? Because either that's true or it's not. It's either one or the other. It can't be. Yes, I create everything, but look what the government's doing. So I think and as this all comes out, people are going to be more and more. Oh my God! Well, who cares what the government's doing? I'm going to just create my own thing, and I think that the faster that happens too, the faster this all changes. We just got to stop giving them our attention, right?
yeah, it's all about attention. It's always been about attention. It's always been about managing our attention.
Mm.
I watched this, there's a really cool new documentary out called Planet Mind Control. Just FYI, anyone who's interested. And, it really does lay out a wonderful series of examples of, systematically since the innovation, since really the innovation of the printing press and which then
Yep.
morphed into, all the various forms of media, like since the beginning of that. And then if you take it back to even where did that even start from? Where did we even get those innovations and how did they even come into play? Which we will talk about at the live show in more detail. But you can start right back at the Abraham Ark of the Covenant moment where it did it's very obvious that there was a shitload of predicting programming going on to morph the slave group into the Israelites, into the Jews, into the genociders, into the innovators of all of this mind control. You can take the case way back. So, like, they're very good at mind control. In fact,
Oh no, you froze.
power over
Oh,
the human race,
you're back. You froze for
and
a
it was
second.
surprising when I watched it. Helen?
You froze for a sec, but you're back, so
Oh.
we missed a little bit.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's probably their biggest weapon to control the human race and has been going back so long in time, right through to, the Ark of the Covenant days, where we literally get whole religions, that have morphed into mind control victims to this day now, when you're looking at sort of the outrageousness that's coming out of some of these rabbis, it's such programming. So we've seen it and it's been going on for so long and it's their biggest tool and tactic. So,
Mm.
you know, when you're sort of at the ilk where we all stand today, where that's not working anymore, like it's an interesting, the world feels so unstable, but at the same time, from that energetic, it feels so stable, like it's never felt as stable. So, it's just like, and we sit on, and we're very much over on that ilk. And it was surprising with that documentary, what the number one
Oh
um,
my God.
substance, and I won't ruin it for you guys. So do watch
No.
it. You'll be surprised by what the number one mind control tech tool has been
And yes, very
for
disappointed, a
the
lot of
past
you.
200 years. Yeah, you're going to be all sad about it, but it's surprising. So that's a
Mm.
documentary called Planet Mind Control. And
Yeah.
Cam, on
Yeah.
that note, there's also, I don't know if you saw this, but Fall of the Cabal.
Fall of
There's
the
a
Cabal.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
that
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
series that came out, and then the woman who made it got murdered. That was fucked.
Yeah.
Janet, it was like Janet,
Euston,
something like
yeah,
this. Yeah.
something like that.
Um,
The Dutch
well,
name.
her partner, the other woman that was working with her, has made the last sort
She's
of
finished it.
final three parts. So that has just been released in the last couple of days, I think.
Wow. On Rumble, I'm
And
guessing. Yeah.
on Rumble, yeah. So if you're interested in watching the final episodes of Fall of the Cabal, it is now out. So we'll check that out as well. And in tribute to her, for fuck's sake, like that was can't
I
believe they
know she
killed
did
her.
such good work. Like
That woman was really
her
important in
voice
that
was everywhere,
documentary.
man.
Yeah,
She did
yeah.
so much and was so good at it.
And so ahead of her time in that
Mm.
summary. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so
Well,
that's out.
this is what we need, right? That the anti. mind control, the anti-government, because even government means mind control, and this is what they do. It's all they understand the psychology of manipulation, right? That's really it.
Yeah.
And then you have Edward Bernays, who started Tavistock, and of course he was Sigmund Freud's nephew. And then Tavistock, all the music, right? Which really music is like affirmations, right? If you're
Yeah.
singing a song over and over, it's just
Ugh.
affirmations. And it's interesting to go back and listen to a lot of these lyrics now,
I
man.
know.
It's crazy. Some of them, it's just, oh my God, what was I programming myself with? And this
Yeah,
is
totally.
why we see the youth completely, over
Sexualized.
sexualized, right? Like
Yeah. Yep.
completely. It's crazy with
Yep.
all the stuff they're coming out. And then we know all the background stuff that's in there, right? That we
Yep.
see in their concerts, all the satanic worship kind of stuff. So, yeah, keep an eye on your kids and your young people,
I
because
mean,
that shit ain't good.
we've had a few nights of karaoke at your house, and it's been fun because, like, you literally go back through the songs that we all know off by heart, our generation, all the ones that we just know all the words to, and you
Yeah.
watch the film clips again and the lyrics, and you're like, wow, yeah, these are shit lyrics, and look at those dodgy film clips, and we didn't know, and like we know all the words.
Mm,
Music is an excellent example of how repetition programs us because our minds are actually geared that way. Humans are
mm.
geared to respond to repetition,
Yes,
and they
totally.
know that.
And to mimic. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Totally, man. Yeah, the muse is sick.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I mean that's just another example of their tactics. But
The mind
once
control.
again, you guys know all this. This
Yeah.
isn't like fucking new information. And so it's just like, even though I feel like it must be really shitty for young people right now to go into a world, and I have to say, all the kids are talking about this at school. The Epstein files are a hot topic at school right now. Obviously, they're in a realm of flux because their idols, their celebrities, their entertainers are starting to be named and emerge. And, it's really destabilizing for our young people. So, like, that's happening. And for that, and for this context to make the gossip channels at the schools, that says that there is definitely a shift going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, that means it's everywhere, right? Especially let us know. Is it on the news? I'll ask mum.
I'll
But
ask my mum too.
yeah, if it's doing that, then it's spreading across all levels of society, right? And uh, yeah, I said it's going to be a big year, and the system is collapsing. They're doing everything they can to make it look like they're doing really well and they're in control of everything, but it's all collapsing, right? We know this, that all the markets are collapsing, the money market, all this stuff. So I think we're going to see some interesting things this year. I'm
And it's going
excited.
to be speedy, 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 speedy. I
Well,
think.
it's always darkest before the dawn, right? Or, it's always calm and dark, and then poof, it all happens so fast. And it's like, oh, I'm surrounded by rubble, the rubble of the government.
And I will remind everyone that of the whole QAnon phenomenon and the repetitive phrase of watch the water, watch
The
the water, watch the
water.
water, watch. I mean, I did go through. I mean, there's plenty of YouTubers out there right now who are doing the work of going through the files and the documents and reporting back, so summarizing it and doing that work. So there's so many now. We don't need to do that. And yeah, I'm waiting for the links. I haven't found any yet, but obviously, of course, they're there back into the ocean. And we're going to start to see this like thread play out. Of course, with the topic of submarines, Cam, did you know that they're the only like official unregulated industry? Like you don't actually have to, there's no regulation around owning a submarine. There's no like official, you don't have to register it. There's no international regulations around it. And of course, we know that submarines are only obtainable and owned by this group
The
of
super
people.
rich. Yeah,
They're the only
yeah.
ones that can have a submarine. We've deep dived a lot into some of those stats with the live show and just looking at how elitist the ocean has been carved out, how they have systematically carved the ocean out to be inaccessible and unobtainable to humans, but completely part of their um, their network, I guess. And in
Yeah, well,
doing
it's
that,
it's their realm, right?
it's
I
their
mean,
realm.
and is this the space that they talk about? Like literally, I think we've done a show called "Is Space the Ocean?" Because it's this massive, big void, void, right, full of water, but there's not a lot out there. There's probably different civilizations out there. There's definitely a video of one of the dudes from Space Force saying that space is the ocean and the moon is a
Hmm.
continent out there. So, they invert everything. So is this literally the cosmos is the ocean, right? The Milky Way, whatever, all these names, is that all stuff that they're actually called in the ocean and their
Yeah.
submarines are the spaceships, right?
Yep, yep. And actually I was doing some research for the show and I was looking at abductee stories, stories of people who've been abducted and gone and been taken into the ocean. And actually, you know what? I don't think many of us actually look for that information. But when you actually start looking, it's actually quite astounding. There are endless, countless stories of people being abducted and take submerged into the ocean, abducted from land and submerged into the ocean, and been taken to domed cities and like these whole other versions of reality that have shocked them and shocked the people working with them to tell these stories. Like, they're not rare is what I'm saying, and
Mm.
we never think to look for them because we've been so programmed that UFO abduction space bound. We've been so programmed by that concept. And then you add in Hollywood and the repetition of movies and TV series, it's all about going up into space.
Yeah.
But I tell you, when you start to actually look, actively look for stories of abductees that lead back to being taken into the ocean, there are many. And it's really, really quite fascinating because it starts to build a picture, a
Mm.
really undeniable picture. I mean, these accounts aren't documented from the conspiracy channels or the conspiracy perspective. They're documented from independent researchers of UFO abductees. So they're very formal recounts. They're not like on shows like this. They're formalized recounts,
Ancient
and
aliens.
yeah, they're making it into very formal publications and journals. So, and it really does start to build this picture. And time again, you're starting to hear the idea of these giant domes under the water, these
Yeah.
giant cities under the water, these different beings who are in these cities, and humans who've been taken down to those cities or indeed born into those cities as sort of like without even knowing there's the land, sort of thing. And this is accounted for over and over and over again. We really
Mm.
do not know or understand, I reckon, 1% of what's going on under there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just recently, the last, 3 months or so, there's a lot of podcast interviews, like proper ones, not like us, but interviewing these really high level people in
Yep,
government and Navy and and they're all talking about domes
yep,
under the
they
water,
are. It's true.
spaceships under the water, USOs, all this
Yep,
stuff. I remember like it first came out, remember when all the drones were around in America?
yep,
And there was all this footage coming out of them going into the water,
yep,
right? Or at least these orbs,
absolutely.
right? And I
Yep.
tried to find it. I was searching yesterday and couldn't find any, but I found a billion AI bloody, like all I could find was AI. So it's
Actually, yep.
interesting, right? It's an easy way to cover up all this other stuff.
Yes, and I have to agree with you. Also, I had the same problem. Like, there were videos we were looking for that we've used on the show that have been part of our shows I could not find.
Yeah,
I couldn't find them again. And there's definitely this systematic scrubbing and replacing with questionable videos from AI, which are all designed, of course, predictive programming for us to mistrust once again that this information is real. So I
yeah.
also noted that, Cam. There's
It
been a
was
shift in the access of information online. Definitely.
totally crazy, man. Totally crazy. And it also works to, discredit us if we start sharing that around as true and other people run it through an AI thing and they're like, what are you doing? It's AI. Then it
Yep.
also makes us look silly, right? So we have to be careful of that because, just to do with Tartaria. There are so many new channels on YouTube, and they are all AI. And you do a search for one. If you find one, you search the title, and you'll get 5 to 10, all the same videos, all different channels, all different voices, but all the same theme, all written by AI. And a lot of there's no information in them. They just say stuff, but that there's no evidence or proof. They're just like, oh, and this happened, and people are watching them and believing them and passing them on to me. But be careful, right? Because the more we watch them, the more they get pushed out there, and the more that newer people who are starting to see what's going on and ask questions, they get railroaded into that, right? Into the bullshit side.
I just I can't imagine what it would be like to be a new person asking questions. I can't even remember that time in my life. I would have been, like 20. I would have been so young. And I can't imagine asking those questions at 50. I can't imagine it. So, like, that's a big deal for a lot of people out there. But I
Yeah,
agree. I
waking
agree.
up is hard to do, I reckon. I mean, you've got to change your whole worldview. These are people who vote and trust the government and think if they vote the next guy and everything will change. And, all this economic stuff is because of, real reasons, right? And to change your whole view of, oh my God, they're actually evil predators, it's a big one.
It's a big one. And of course, what's happened to, to our communities over these decades is we've been forced into essentially becoming fringe dwellers. We've no longer found inspiration in getting careers or, like interacting in politics or anything that's sort of mainstream. It's put everyone in sort of a very alternative space, which has impacted their financial life, their health, their relationships, like across the whole spectrum. It's made a big difference to their reality. So I don't know how
Mm.
you reconcile that now today, especially, and have empathy, people, because compassion is an important energetic. Um, who have like actually are starting to reconcile this concept alongside knowing that they've all taken the vaccine.
Yes,
So
and
I
the
mean that's
Billigo is
fucked.
in the files, right? The
Yeah.
main and no doubt so many others who are pushing it, they're all in the files.
Yeah. So
That's
is
got to be
Bitcoin.
hard.
So is the
Mm.
internet. Internet and
Bitcoin, yes, I've
Bitcoin, they're
heard
all in
that it was
there.
completely, yeah, manipulated by these people. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming out is getting crazy. Um, but that's the other thing is look at it, control the energy, don't go into fear, try not to get into too much anger and hatred, and just start planning
Well,
the course forward, right? Because
yeah.
that's what they want. They want us to help their energy, but we've got to create our own if we're going to go in a different direction.
But we wouldn't be at a state of fear and anger. This community's well past that. It's not like
Mm.
that's something that's being
I know.
invoked, is it? I mean, maybe the only thing that's being invoked is a sense of like, ugh, like that, like,
And why aren't they doing
ugh.
anything? Why aren't there mass arrests? Where are the gallows? Because we're not seeing that either, right? I mean, what's going on behind the scenes? Who knows, right? Because we don't know how much any of this stuff that we've been consuming in the last 20, 25 years is real. Like I saw a video on that lady who the ICE people apparently pew-pewed. Remember that? She was in a car and she ended up not surviving. And someone went through the video and was just showing these little glitches and little he basically showed that the whole thing, all the videos, all AI generated, and that the lady never even existed. You
Yeah,
couldn't.
right.
There was like 3 photos of her, no history. Her
Yeah.
ex-husband had died, and there was no history of it. Like there's nothing.
Yeah.
So the whole story, including the person, was made up and
Yep.
AI generated, and we don't know how long this has
How old
been
was
going
that?
on. That happened late last year. Yeah, it was a big thing. It was the ICE agents that everyone's out against, and they did something, but it's just to cause division, right? It just showed they would have made it, right? Of them, apparently their side doing the wrong thing, but it's to cause division. This is their only card they've got left to play, right? Fear and division. And so just remember, like everything we see now online, you can't judge it as real or not real, as good or bad, because it might not even be true, right?
Yeah, I know. I know.
It's
This is
a
like a
crazy
weird
world,
dance we're
man.
in. I know, I know, I know. And like at the end of the day, like I think I've come to the state of mind that, to just flow through when I have to the system, just flow through, like I'm not trying to beat it. I'm not trying to deeply understand it anymore. I'm not trying to try to, like up it. I'm not trying to work out ways to get through it even in the aspect of sovereignty, which is an interesting one, this journey with sovereignty, like it's no longer appealing to me because I feel like, for what it gives you, it takes from you in abundance. We've got plenty of friends who have gone through the whole sovereignty route and really done it properly and really then struggled in their lives because yes, it gives you this sense of like, I am free, but there's a legal system that doesn't care. It
Yeah,
doesn't respect. You can go to
basically.
court and it's going to get thrown out. You can write the best letters, have the best understanding of the law, be totally within your rights, and it will make no difference. So the stress it causes is like pointless activity at the end of the day. I know,
Mm,
and it's a struggle, right, Cam? I've watched you struggle with this one, and all of us really, like, how far do we take it? How far do we submit to it? And I guess the
yeah.
answer
How
is,
far do we let it impact our normal life, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, if it takes away your right to travel because you don't have a formal passport, like, how does that impact your experience for reality? Like, I
Mm,
love traveling. Traveling, we both do a lot of traveling and we both love it and we both get so much out of it. And would we sacrifice that in order to, claim our sovereignty?
yeah, it's a hard one, right? But the main thing is, like you said, the, the government don't care. The legal system, that this is the same people that we're
Yeah, they
reading
don't.
about in the
No,
files.
it's,
They don't.
yeah,
They're not going to
exactly.
try. They're not going to do the right thing. They're not going to go, oh, hang on. It says in our law that we should do. They're just going to be stuff you, right? So it's where the energy goes. And for years and years, it was my opinion that I can't be bothered with them because I don't want to go into all their crap and learn all their crap and all their stupid little details and fine print and that. I was always just on, let's just make them disappear, right? Let's just create a different reality.
Yeah.
And then it took a while. So I've definitely done a lot of study on it, but this is the question is it better doing that, which is kind of focusing on they have control and we have to live by their rules, or is it better to just focus on, well, the cops can't see me anyway, I'm just out here living my life and have more freedom because there is, if you start getting into the hardcore sovereign stuff, there kind of is more freedom within the system when they start doing things like handing back passports and things, and then they can't travel. I mean, sucks, yes, but that is unfortunately, the residue of the world that we've lived in. So, but I think it's all going to change soon. Bring back the airships, man.
I mean, there's definitely, I mean, I would never, ever, ever submit to anything to do with putting stuff in my body. That is a line I'll never cross. It doesn't
Mm,
matter what they take from me on that level. That is a line I'll never cross. But as far as not having an active driver's license, it's just a fucking pain in the ass. Like literally, it's a pain in the fucking ass. And what point am I making to not have a license in order to constantly be getting stopped, constantly be getting fined, constantly be getting blocked in my movement through the flow? Like, so
mm,
basically, what I'm saying is I've decided to judge how I'm going to interact with my rights within this system based on the flow of what I want to experience in my life. And for me, the flow of having a license outweighs the flow of being blocked in my travel. For me, the flow of paying a fucking fine that I get all the fucking time. But and just paying it versus writing the letters and writing the letters and taking it to court and it doesn't matter anyway. I lose my license, so I get like so yeah. What I'm trying to say is that after studying this for the last year, in relationship to the system and sovereignty, I'm choosing flow. I'm choosing flow
mm.
because I have a much bigger vision that like I am flowing towards. And that big vision of flowing towards, I'm just going to make it as easy as possible. And all of my energy is not going to be in courts or fighting systems or doing anything like that. Because to me, that's a no-win scenario. I just want to flow towards my vision.
Yeah.
And so that's my need. I want to flow towards my vision. And I'm going to do that as effortlessly and as easily as I can. And that's just like surrendering to the fact that, yes, we are enslaved by this non-human race. And that's the way it is. But they can't stop my vision and they
No.
can't stop me flowing towards it. And I just don't want to be in a situation where I am blocked along that pathway in ways that are not going to be resolvable on in my favor at the end of all the
Yeah.
stress.
It's a game of attention and focus. And we know this because they spend so much of their resources and time trying to get us to focus on what they want, right? So, I mean, it is. It's, we've only got so much time, and all the time that we're focusing and learning on doing that, we're not building the dream, right? We're not building the new earth that everyone keeps talking about. So it's definitely something to consider, right? Because I know a lot of people out there have done all this and are doing all this, and don't yell at us. It's just another point of view, right? Like we've really got to decide, like, where is our focus and energy going? Because we only have so much of it, right? And then, of course, the big one, what are the results that got us?
Yeah, because the irony is, it appears to me, and yes, I agree, don't hate us for having this video. Um, it occurs to me that for every act towards sovereignty, you become less sovereign. For every act, every step that you make towards sovereignty, you give up sovereignty. It's ironic. Like, if you don't have a license or a car because you're refusing to engage that system, then you can go through that pathway, but you become unsovereign in doing that. The system itself, whether you feed into it or kick against it, it's parasitic in nature, it's extractive in nature, which means no matter which place you go to regain your sovereignty, you're in a state of extraction. So it takes
True.
from you. Every time it gives you something, it takes something. And every time it appears to make you sovereign, you become less sovereign in the flow of this reality. And,
True.
like you can hand back all your identification, but, you then become less sovereign in your ability to, live the life you want to live and move around and travel and, drive without being hassled. You become less sovereign. And then you become dependent on others to help you like maintain that sovereignty, which is unsovereign. So it's a very,
It's a
like it's
vicious
just a,
circle.
yeah, it's a vicious circle of extraction. I
Mm,
mean, you're basically fighting a system based on extraction.
that's
And you
true.
will constantly be in a state, you get something, it's extracting something from you. And then you in turn have to extract something from someone else, like, so
Yeah,
it's,
it is true. It's extractive, not growing,
it's not
uh,
regenerative
not
in nature.
regenerative.
Yeah. So
Right.
this system, like how much energy do you want to put into this system in order to be in a state of regeneration? Like you can't do it. It's like, I don't know, it's like taking something from somewhere that's never going to be a match or a mix for the thing you're actually after. And the thing I'm after is fucking a magical world again. I think like the answer to all this, like I watched Wonka last night. I love that movie. Because it's just
Oh,
so magical and
mm,
it's so based on the imagination. And I think, wow, like this world needs so much more imagination, so much more magic in it. And the only way to actually invoke magic and imagination again is to basically be in a state of regeneration. Like because that is the nature. The imagination lives in a regenerative, relational mindset. It
mm.
does not cope well with extraction and parasitic energy. It doesn't operate that. It's not there. So
Oh,
if you want
great.
to see imagination and magic back in the world, you have to be moving into a regenerative state. And you can see that in your life. How
Yeah.
much of your personal life is in a state of relation and regeneration versus extraction and a parasitic energetic,
Yes.
you know? All right. Sorry, we had to have a temporary pause there as Mr. Autodidactic went house shopping.
Mm.
Um, All right, so we're on a little tangent about going with the flow, Mr. Autodidactic, and just to kick off that conversation again, because this is an interesting topic because not many people talk about this publicly. The whole process between choosing sovereignty and within the system and going with the flow. And I guess one of the things I want to say more on that topic is, because it's an extractive system that is governed by maritime law and not law of the land, by attempting to assert yourself as a legal entity in relation to law of the land in a system that doesn't respect it or respond to it or isn't set up in any way to um, like work, have a relationship with it. Like no matter what you tend to do in regards to reclaiming your sovereignty with that system, you automatically become less sovereign.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a really interesting thing to really understand as we've like moved through this journey and attempted our own version of it and watched other people around us attempt that version. Everyone who makes the move to disengage from the system by sending back their ID and their passports and claiming and writing the letters and not paying the fines and going to court, the end result is twofold. One is you lose your sovereignty within that system and you become parasitic and extractive within others to operate without your ID, without your cards, without your licenses, without your without you having the identification that enables you to move with flow through that reality.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all, all good and well, right? All sounds great. But the question is, do you think that the government are going to abide by that? Because this is the thing, it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't even really matter what's in their law, because we know that they don't even follow their law, right? So why would they say, oh, okay, you've done all this paperwork and blah blah blah, we'll just let you travel? I mean, that's not the government that we know, right? They're not going to go, oh well, we'll just obey our own laws for once. So yeah, and we know a few people, right, that have done this, that have handed things back, and it has adversely affected their life. And because the system is,
Terribly.
extractive, that means all this time you've got to put into it and money. It's actually extracting all that out of you, right? All that life, all the time, the
Yeah.
experiences you could have had. It ends up costing most people more money. So yeah, it's something that needs to be thought about, as with everything, all these rabbit holes, right? Like how much time are we putting into looking at, the script really, right? The movie, what the info they want us to have versus our imaginations and our dreams and what we want to build. It was Buckminster Fuller who said, when you want to build something new, you don't focus on tearing down the old. You just focus on building what you want to build.
Yeah, I mean, and I've got, in my own personal experiences, obviously I've never voted. I've never voted and in never voting, there was one time where I got fined. And because I was like, fuck you, man, I'm not paying the fine, I go to court and I wrote the letters and and I got the letters back and which were basically saying, we don't care, we're fining you now and now here's double the fine. And like I sat on it for so long in the quagmire of wanting to choose my freedom and sovereignty and my legal God-given rights. I shouldn't even say God-given rights anymore because that God isn't even the one giving me rights, but in my creator rights. And all that happened was that basically the fines doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled because it keeps extracting until my license was automatically removed. And suddenly I didn't have a license. So the end result of that was not success. It was an $800 fine and me having to go and reinstate my license. So the end result for me was not flow and it cost more, but within that system, I continue to not vote. But if I don't vote and I get a fine and that first $50 fine, I'm just going to pay the fine because that to me is the flow. For me, I have not voted. So I've achieved my intention, which is not to add my signature to this, perverse game of theirs. But I'm going to pay the $50 fine, knowing that if I don't, then that's just going to keep increasing and it's going to keep causing more and more problems. So that's the sort of flow that one has to like decide on in a personal and smart way. I mean, we know examples of people obviously who've gone through it and handed back their passport and, said, well, fuck it, then if I can't travel, I can't travel. Well, that's fine if you're comfortable with that, but I don't want to spend the rest of my 50 years not having the freedom to go and explore this amazing world and all the cultures because the experiences for me are so rich and they're
Mm.
so powerful and they give me so much. However, if it meant that I had to have a vaccine to travel, that would be another question for me because I wouldn't do that. So then I would literally give that up. If that's so I've had to determine where my value system lies and my personal morality and all of that. And there's lines there that I won't cross. I just will not cross them. And if that's the penalty, having said that, when I didn't take the vaccine, I kept traveling. There's always ways. I just kept traveling. I just used fake passports. I just didn't have anything. We traveled at night. Like there's always ways to do it. You know what I mean? And I think, yeah, do you have any examples of your own experience with any of this?
I mean, I've done pretty well. I think intention comes into this a lot as well, and this is the problem with focusing on the government and the law and all this, that's kind of where attention's going, and you're building up that you are a bit of a slave, right? And that they do have control and they can do this and that. So I think that's a big part for people, especially the licensing. I driven without a license for gosh, like 4 or 5 years now. Um, and I have been picked up once, driving that, but that's because the car was unregistered. I didn't realize, but that was, but yeah. But to me, that was, I remember before I went out, I was like, the cops are just going to drive past me. They won't even see me. And of course, what happened is they drove past me, but their little electronic dead eye picked up my number plate and they saw me. Have you frozen? I think you've frozen.
Frozen.
Yes, there you
Yeah,
are.
we're
You're back.
back.
Um,
Anyway,
so yeah,
yeah.
so I think intention is a big part of this, and I think that's a better way to look at this, right? Instead of, doing all the work and putting in your time and everything into it and going through the system and testing things out, because we really are still in the testing things out phase with all of this. Maybe a better way to approach it is to just focus on I am sovereign, right? Of course they have no rule over me. If you have to pay a fine or whatever, well, you have to pay a fine. But I think that energy could be better spent in just knowing that you're sovereign and being in flow because that way you're not going to come into contact with them as much. We've all seen this with, people, a lot of it was forced, but, we seem to be running into, people on our level more these days, right? Than actually just meeting random things. And that's because of flow and energy. So, yeah, and I've always kind of thought this way, and I think I think this is the next step, right? That we need to do is actually step into the creating the new world, the we are creators, the thoughts are, magic and they create things. What is it? Thoughts create things, all these things, because we hear so much talk about it, but we don't see the world changing a lot. I think we really need to start to embody, well, this is the world, but I'm more powerful and step into that. But understand that at the
Well, I mean,
moment, there's still a few confines, right? Unfortunately, because we've been invaded, but we're stepping out
yeah,
of
I
it.
mean, we have many personal examples around us of people who have, handed back all their ID to, declare their sovereignty within this system. But it's a paradox, isn't it? To declare your sovereignty within a
Within the
system that's
system.
extractive.
I know, right?
It's a paradox.
Sovereign
But
citizen. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and what it's resulted for individuals is that then they're blocked in ways that are blocking their actual purpose and dream, where they want to start a retreat or they want to move forward into a higher vision, but then they can't get public liability insurance because they have no ID, or they can't get the next level, or you can drive without a license, Campbell, but it's a game of luck because
It
you
is.
can
Yes.
get you can get pulled up, and as a woman, that's like nerve-wracking to start with. And you could also have a car crash and then you have no fucking third party insurance. And then
Yes.
you'd be in a whole world of suffering and pain. Or you could keep denying the fines, and let them build up to their max potential and end up in court and lose the court case. And then 2 years of your life have gone and all the stress. there's no flow there because the system by nature is extractive and parasitic. And
Mm,
to claim your sovereignty within the system that's parasitic and extractive is going to end up causing you to be embodiment of parasiticness and extractiveness. And it takes from your dream, your purpose, your meaning, your vision, and your power and your ability to move and to move comfortably and safely and to get insurance and to get the things that actually are necessary to move on to that next step. So it's very much like choose your flow. Like this is a more maturing of this movement, this freedom fighting movement. Freedom fighting is just it's a paradox in onto itself again. And
mm,
like just from my actual example, of my own life, I absolutely understand that the system is here and, it seems to have a strong hold on our reality. But in reality, if you just move away, physically move away from the system, so you physically take yourself into regional and rural areas, physically plant yourself in your life as far away from the system as you can get. There is a physical shift there. You are literally like they do not invest in the mechanisms of the systems in rural and regional communities. So, like I drove for 4 years without a license when I was living in regional Australia. And that wasn't very stressful for me. In fact, I didn't really ever think about it. And I taught myself to drive. I didn't even have an instructor. I taught myself to drive down the fucking back roads of cow paddocks and what have you, and did that. And I was never concerned. But that was because I was in regional, I was literally physically away from the system. And here, if you do that when you're in the system, like the chances are every 100 Ks, or sorry, every 100 meters, there's a someone there to catch you. There's a police officer, there's a highway patrol person, there's a speeding camera,
camera.
there's
Mm,
cameras, whatever. The system is set up when you're in it, when you're in the cities and you're in the big, big townships to actually
extract
monitor
from you.
you and trick you and trap you and fine you. But move away from it, and all of that sort of chills the fuck out. All of that
Mm,
starts to become less of a thing. The relationship you have with the system dramatically shifts just by physically moving yourself away from it. That to me is more sovereignty than trying to, reject the system within the system and become sovereign within a system that's extractive and doesn't give a shit.
mm. Yeah, yeah, and that's ultimately it, right? Like, well, you can't be sovereign within the system, but all the focus is on the system. Right? Getting out of the system sucks because of this. The system can't do that. Like, it's all the system, right? It's not, I want to do this. This is the way I'm going. This is the world I want to create. So it's the opposite. And this happens so much. It's like people think all these things and, it feels like they're going forward, but they're actually going backwards because they're bringing it into their life more because they're focusing on it more, right? Where attention goes, energy flows, and all that kind of stuff. And I think this is what we need to get back to and start to recognize more. Like, what am I? Am I trying to tear the old down or am I trying to build the new? You know?
Yeah, and to physically build the new, you need to move away.
Yeah.
Physically move away from
Well,
the old
because
system.
even just the life, there's physically less to interact with as far as this system goes, right?
Hmm.
Especially if you're on a big bush block, right? Or even just a little town, like it doesn't exist. You won't walk around seeing people on their phones
Yeah.
everywhere and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot less 5G out there and all
Yeah,
this.
there's less 5G.
And
Yes,
and just the whole combined radiation of all the Bluetooth, all the Wi-Fi, especially in cities, right, let alone towns, like it would be such a force, right? Such a massive field. But that doesn't exist out in the country either. And you've
it
got more
doesn't.
animals, you've got more nature, so you've got more natural energies out there. And that's what
And
we talk about, right?
there's like one
Yeah.
unfunded police officer for the whole community, the
Yeah.
further you get out, because it gets less and less funded, less and less focused on, less and less attention, less and less care from the system to monitor it. They all want us in the cities,
Mm.
so the system is city bound, if you like. And also when you physically move further away from it, and I think this is really important because no one talks about this, but when you physically move away from it, you physically move yourself into an environment where you are no longer spending all your time asking chat questions or Google questions. You're literally in the process of becoming sovereign. You are literally going to grow food. You are literally going to form rural communities. You are literally going to make the effort to drive an hour to socialize because everyone's so far apart. When I, in my old town, where in the old village that I used to live in, my very first farm, it was a village of 36 people. And literally there was 1.4 persons to every square kilometer. Where if you compare that to, say, the cities, it's something crazy like 14, what was it? It was so long ago I did the statistics. Maybe it was 4,000 people to a square kilometer. So
Yeah.
the difference in how the system is going to operate around you is like 1,000% fold. And the other example of, the power of actual sovereignty starting with you moving away from the insovereign thing is that you start to, return back to the wisdom of humans again. I remember a really good example I was just telling you about when my chickens had mites all over them, right? And so my initial response is to Google, and now it would have been chat, but Google, how do I deal with these mites? Like, what do I do? And Google would spat out all these like solutions that, were like in whatever the mainstream solutions were. But the solution actually came down to, after I tried a few of those things, was speaking to my old codger man, my codger. And for those who don't know the word codger, that just means like an old Aussie dude that's been living out in regional rural communities. And they speak like this, they're like cow, they're a bit slower, it's a bit conjuring like, and a bit nasally. And he's like, Cal, I tell ya, you just got to dip their legs in friggin' petrol, Cal. That's what you got to do. And stick them in petrol and they'll clear up the mites overnight. You'll never have another problem. And so, of course, that was like the last thing I wanted to do. But as soon as I gave into his advice, which is ultimately wisdom that he's carried through 80-year generation cycle. He's been on the land for his whole life and he's been taught by people who've been on the land his whole life. And over those 80 years, this is a solution that they came to that solved the problem. And indeed, it solved the fucking problem. Caused no harm to the chickens, solved the problem like that. No other fucking bullshit chemical washes or anything like that. And it was done. And that example is really poignant because within that example, like I took advice and wisdom from a fellow human being who had been living in that way over many decades. And what a difference in quality of advice than I would be able to get on ChatGPT. Like chat would have sent me on like, if I had said, oh, what about putting petrol on the ledge? I'd be like, oh my God, that's the terriblest idea ever. You definitely can't do that. So that's blah, 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 blah. Like it's like the dead talking to you, where the living have wisdom and advice. So that's
Mm,
another level of sovereignty that comes from when you physically move away from the system.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The 2D online world, the system, it's full of information, but not wisdom, right? Because and there's also no interaction, but and we know that the internet's mainly full of crap and disinformation, like seriously. But that's the only place that AI can draw its information from, is from all of that. That's it.
All of
So
its programming.
it's not talking to codgers. It's not talking to old people, living out in the bush or out in tribes or whatever and getting their wisdom. It's just all the interpretations of the information that we've been given by the system. That's pretty much
Yep.
all it gets.
Yep.
So
And
it's dead, right? It's not living wisdom. It's not wisdom. It's not it's no wisdom, but all the information it hasn't lived, it hasn't experienced, so it
mhm.
doesn't know.
It doesn't. And you know what? It's literally not human.
It's
It's
not
literally the
human.
dead speaking
It's
to you. And
dead.
like I don't know if you can notice, but right here there's a little mark on my face. And last week I used the black salve on my face because I thought, oh,
Salve,
I might
like
have a little
salve.
skin
Yes.
cancer there. So I did it. I put it on and it scabbed up and it's just fallen off. You can see a little mark, there's a little hole. Anyway, I was just like, I wonder what Chad thinks of Black Sab. And I typed it in the other night and he's like, oh, Black Sab, biggest conspiracy on the planet. Don't use Black Sab. It's going to eat a big hole in your face and it's not even going to solve the problem. It's complete misinformation. It's dangerous, danger, danger. And yet, in reality, around me and around my regional communities, There are hundreds of people who have used black salve to pull out skin cancers, literally hundreds. And so I had no lack of confidence in using this and going through the process because I have literal got wisdom of people all around me. But by talking to the dead, the system, all I got was danger, Will Robson, danger. Go to the doctor immediately, a doctor immediately, go to the doctor, 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 you know. So, like, that's just what one tiny example of how the system speaks to us and the
That's
difference in
right.
quality from when you're away from it and away from people depending on it and actually leaning on the wisdom and advice of, people around you who are outside of the system by default.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a re-education system. It's like you're wrong. Here, go and read this from this expert. Go and talk to this, which is all this the system trying to reinforce the system into us. It's crazy, right? When you think
Yeah.
about it that way,
Yeah.
it's re-education, man.
And there's no like the advice that you can get from the system is completely inhuman. There's no way of judging its morality because it doesn't have any. Literally doesn't. It's binary. It's a binary code. It's extractive and binary. There is no morality involved in that. And you guys like have it's a fun process to walk through that. We again are going to go through that in detail in the live because when you start to get your head around of how these systems that enslave us actually operate and really understand the lack of humanness and morality, which we do understand, but like really understand that binary code is designed to be void of moral consciousness. So my codger,
Good.
right? His name was
Yeah.
Russell. And this is a great story because when he appeared at my front door, he was in his sort of 70s, real rough looking dude. And he just for some reason took a shining to me and just kept turning up. And so I just decided if he's going to turn up, I'm just going to embrace him and we're going to do stuff together. And so Russell just sort of like found a flow with me. I went with the flow and he would come over and we'd have a cup of tea, Kel, or have my black tea, Kel, just have my smoko. And then whatever project I was working on, like, building a chicken coop or whatever it was, he would come and do it with me. And through that relationship, relating, he taught me how to build. He literally was the first person who taught me how to use tools and what they were called. Because, when you start the tool journey, I was really dumb. I didn't know anything. He'd ask me to get something. I wouldn't even know what it was he was trying to tell me. I didn't know the language of it. And so, but the relationship we were forming is that over time, he enjoyed like showing me and we'd get stuff done and I learned. And I remember one point story very early in when I just like understood Russell's character. And I think I've told you this before, Cam, but he said he will have in a smoko. And I'll take it down to codger language. And he was like, Cal, Cal, I remember Cal. Oh, one day I was out in the bush and I fell asleep and I was camping out in the bush by myself, Cal. And you know what, mate? I woke up, Cal. I woke up and there was like a family of baby possums asleep on my chest, Cal. It was asleep on my chest. Can you believe that, Cal? And I'd stay there and I couldn't move, Cal. I'd stay there for hours and I had stuff to do. And there they were fast asleep. And I was like, that is a fucking beautiful story, Russell. Like, literally, you've just showed me your whole frequency vibration. You have just showed me how animals respond to you. And animals do not respond to the system. They're terrified of the system. They can't form a relationship with it. But human and human, animals will tell you a lot about someone's character, vibration, frequency, morality. And you can package that character up in a real rough vessel and uneducated and could potentially have done some dodgy shit in their lifetime, but like animals will like there's no way wild baby possums are going to fall asleep on a man's chest if that man is not feeling like safe and protective to them
Yeah.
and part of
And part of it.
literally part of the natural world.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and so so this to me is the summary after all these years of looking at sovereignty. You know, what is the most sovereign act you can do? Is it to hand your ID back? No. Is it to not pay your fines? No. Is it to go to court? No. The most sovereign act you can take as an individual is to move away from it physically. And when you make that move physically, you will suddenly find yourself into a situation, an environment that is a much closer to the natural world and is a lot less governed by the system.
Mm.
And then, my friends, it's natural and instinctive to practice and be in your sovereignty because then you're excited. You want to build, you want to grow, you want to love animals, you want to be out in the sun. Like there's no, you're not following some chat GPT mandate about how to be sovereign. You're
No,
literally just in nature, which is the natural world. So
and you
that
have
to
most
me,
of the
yeah,
materials you need to build to start, right?
which makes you sovereign.
Which makes you sovereign, and then you can work on manifesting, right? Getting part of the flow and creating everything else you need. So
Yeah. And you can go to your tip cam, which is free, and
yes,
it's just down the road in a big fucking hole in the ground. And you can go in there and you need some screws, you need some wood, you go into the tip and you go and get it. You find them, you bring them home. So your imagination's on fire because there's literally nothing you can't solve or build when you've got a local bit come to the system and you can't go to the tip, my friends. That's all managed and governed and policed now. You literally can
yeah,
go to a tip shop and that's it.
yeah.
So I mean, what I'm trying to say is that true sovereignty is a natural side effect of forming a relationship within the natural world. It's a natural side effect. You don't have to try. You don't have to fight. You don't have to go to court. You don't have to write letters. You don't have to be stressed and nervous every time you ride on the road. You don't have to go through any of that process. All you're
Oh,
doing
oh, no, it froze.
natural world because that's all it exudes.
Yes, yes, you just froze then and we missed all the tail end of that little rant.
Oh, really? It was a good rant. Where did I
Yes,
get
I
up to? All right, so
know.
say it again, Kelly Jones. What I'm saying in summary is that you just have to go to physically move to the natural world and you'll be physically in relationship with your sovereignty. You don't have to try, you don't have to send your ID back, you don't have to write letters or go to court or make nervous steps into an unregistered vehicle. You are literally in a natural, organic relationship mode because the natural world is relating bound, it's relational bound. So you are literally stepping into your sovereignty with zero effort.
Mm. Yes, yes, and I totally agree. Bringing it back again to this is what everyone's been talking about, right? We're either the creators of reality and our thoughts and actions matter and mold reality or not, right? Right. Which road do you want to take? Do you want to take it in the belief and standing sovereign in you are the creator? I mean, that's a pretty sovereign stance, right? Probably a bit more sovereign than fighting and yelling and telling someone, I am sovereign. Because if you have to say it, are you? You need to just be sovereign, right? Embody it and
Mm-hmm.
understand that we're still in a world. We're still coming out of this, parasitic system. So, we still have to do some things, but we can still be sovereign, right, in our actions and our thoughts.
Well, all you truly have to do is move into a relationship bound system, which
Mm,
is to move away from it. So if you are still in the system that's extractive, then go with the flow. Don't fight it because it's not relational. Do not fight it. It's not going to sit there and consider your letter. It's not going to consider your plight or your objection or your legal rights. It's not going to do that. So don't fight it. Go with the flow. Don't limit yourself if you're there. Just get your shit together. Get your car, get your license, get insured. You know, have your passport, travel, do those things because you're in an extractive system. Go with the flow. If you truly want sovereignty, aim to move away from that and into a relational system, which is rural, regional areas around the world. And it's just going to flow to you without much effort. And that is my grand summary on sovereignty movement to
mm.
date. And so now I still won't vote Campbell. I never will, but I never had my signature. But I will happily pay the $50 due fine on step one. And I will have my driver's license and I will have my car insurance because I'm going to want to travel through the system easily. And I will
Mm.
maintain my passport. And my only objection will come down to vaccines, or whatever bullshit
Yeah,
that is.
clearly
Like,
that, yes. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm getting my license and a licensed car because I haven't had it for years, right? But it's restrictive. I haven't had the freedom to just get up and go whenever I want. So yeah, for me, it's going to give me more sovereignty, right? More time with myself, my
yeah.
own thoughts. It's going to give me transport to get out into nature, right? All this kind of stuff. Where, sitting around trying to work out legally how not to get a license, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. right? It takes money, all these things. So yeah, again, it's extracting from my experience.
Exactly. And making you dependent on others, which is making you
Well,
by
that is
default parasitic in energy. And like it's not, it's the opposite of your intention. And look,
yes,
I'm not dissing anyone who has gone through this epic process of trying to
no.
become
I've spent
legally
years
sovereign.
on it. We both
Yeah.
have, right? Yeah.
And we have so many dear and wonderful friends who have also gone through it and continue to go through it and continue to press those boundaries. And you know what? You have been the leading edge. You have been the leading edge. It's your actions and sovereignty that have carved a pathway through for many people to attempt to understand their rights. And so I'm not, this is not a conversation dissing our community in any way. This is a
No.
conversation that is basically giving our summary of where we now stand within that, which is we don't want the drama of trying to be relational within an extractive system. What we want is natural relationship with the natural system. And so that to me is just a very clarifying understanding. And it's taken us to this age, Campbell. We're like to this moment. And really, I started the first product that I ever put in the market when I was 24 was a CD about inalienable rights. Like, I mean, we have been in this field for so long trying to understand it, and it's given us so much benefit and so much, how much amazing confidence and courage has it brought out of the community who have actually gone through it? Like our friend Paul, who's like, been an amazing example of this, has just his courage, his braveness has been inspirational and inspiring to see him
Mm.
over and over again maintain this idea of not having a license and having sovereign plates on. And it's been, I love hearing his stories. I love hearing the texture of his wisdom because that texture is, that to me is codger language. It is a texture of earned and built wisdom.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, the stories where I hear it stop people in their tracks from living their dreams, that is another side of the wisdom that we've also had the privilege to take on board and understand through people's experiences. So do not
Mm.
think in any
No.
sense that everyone's strong, bold, and courageous actions have just been so inspirational to watch and so
Yeah.
inspirational to
And
to,
so
to
much
talk about it.
information, that we
Yeah,
needed to know, right?
absolutely.
But it's the same as anything, right? Just, choose where you're going, like weigh it up. What are the benefits, for anything, right? Because there's so many of these topics as well that people can go right into, and it affects, their creativeness, right? Brings them into the extractive system. So I think with anything, you know, um, just think about it before you give it so much time. But obviously, with all of these things, there's some people that just have this burning desire, right?
And
And
they're
and
fucking
they're supposed to be
radicals.
doing it, and they're
Leading
awesome,
edge.
exactly. And
Yes,
we would
exactly. They're
never tell
supposed to be doing
anyone
it.
to
Yeah,
stop researching or doing what drives you, but not every cause is yours, right? So that's what I guess what we're saying. Just have a bit of a think about it. Is this going to add or take away from your life, right?
exactly. And when did the codgers understand that petrol solves chicken mites? When did they get that? They got it through fucking learned experiences, trial and error, my friends.
Hmm.
Like as far as if I could summarize the solutions provided to me over the many decades living in regional Australia, the two things that like are the standout feature products are fucking WD-40
Yeah,
and petrol.
yeah, and gaffer tape.
Gaffer tape and
Gaffer
zip
tape
ties.
these days. Not really with the codgers. The codgers get a hammer and nail, but we use
Yeah.
gaffer tape and zip ties.
I mean, the uses of WD-40 out there in the realm are extraordinary. But if you were to run those same problems through the system, the extractive system, you would be advised in so many complicated and expensive ways forward and
like it's
completely ill-advised to take on board any of these, you know, tested and tried
well, it's
experiences.
like screws, man. Like when I was getting taught when I was young and Dad was making stuff, like you'd always drill a hole and then you put the screw in soap and straight
Yeah.
in, no problems. Now they come up with all these like plastic inserts to put in there and all this bullshit. When, the answers are simple
Yeah.
and they work, right? Because they're tried
Because,
and tested.
yeah, I mean, extractive system is consumer facing.
Well,
It's
exactly
it's
right.
consumption.
let's not tell them to like pre-drill and to use soap. Let's sell them more shit.
It's consumption. Yep.
Mm.
Whereas the natural system is the opposite of consumption. It's about being resourceful. It
And
literally is about like, using that piece of wood 10 times before you finally burn it. And when you're
yeah.
going to burn it, you're going to burn it at a fire and that's going to keep you warm. Like there is no wastage. It is the opposite from consumption. It
Mm.
literally is
It's
resourceful and
symbiotic, right?
recycling. Mm.
It's symbiotic. It gives back. It's a two-way system, right, of
Hmm.
exchange when you're in nature.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with the system, it's not, right? When do
Yeah.
you ever get anything back, right? It's just take,
Yeah.
take, take, take. It's a one-way funnel.
Yeah.
But nature will teach you, it will give you, wood and warmth and all these things and lessons, and
Yep.
so it's an exchange, right?
It's totally exchange, man. And like, if you want to talk about imagination and magic, which system is that going to thrive in, Campbell? Which system is that literally going to thrive in?
Well,
Because
mm,
imagination to thrive, it has to be completely full of potentials.
yeah.
It cannot be binary. Imagination exists off the back of pure potential. That's what it is. That is imagination. And within a system that's binary, it can't function. All it can do is slightly morph into consumption.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
That's where so now we're sitting in a when we're in the systems, in the cities, in online, whatever, you can see that there's no new imagination. That it's just now a
Wow.
consumption base. So one person does something and then a million people copy that one thing or give
Yeah,
derivatives of that one thing. It does
totally.
not enhance a relationship with your imagination. It does
No,
the exact opposite.
no, that's AI. And as we all know, right, when you do come up with a really good idea and you actually take action and turn into something that's going to help the system, they find you and they take you out and they steal all your copies and they don't let it out anyway. So it's definitely, that's the big clue that the system is not for imagination and growth and expansion. Did you hear that?
So thus no magic is abound. No magic, no imagination within an extractive system. You have an idea, you have to morph that idea into a consumption-based concept.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whatever the
I want to
initial
learn
trigger point
this.
was,
Awesome. We've got a course for you. Like
exactly, or it
we've got
has
a
to become a
product for
product.
you. Oh, you've got something. I'll
That's
buy
right.
this. Mm,
Yes, or if you like have the imagination of a creator, like a musician or an artist, then it's all completely geared towards how can you sell
yeah,
that idea and make money from it. So it's absolutely the opposite frequency band
yeah.
of imagination.
Well, it turns
And
creativity into an output thing, which is all about
yeah,
consumption, like with music,
yeah,
right? As soon
yeah,
as you make it big, you've got to make your next album. It's not about, oh, wow, we've just made this amazing creation. It's time to do another album. It's like, no, no, you've got to put it out there, get them to
absolutely.
consume more. And so we get a lesser product, right?
And it
Much
makes it
less
fragile. It makes it
imagination. Yeah.
super unstable and super fragile, totally different from
And
custodianship and
it's
legacy.
externalized, right? It's all of this stuff is externalized as well. Like, have I still got fans? Are people buying? Am I still famous? How do people see me, basically?
Yeah, and it's speedy. The speed, so a binary system is speedy. It's speed based because it's run by the dead, and the
Mm,
dead don't adhere to time. They have
right.
no natural rhythms, no, they don't adhere to a sense of time. So by nature, it becomes a speedy extractive system, which
Mm,
everyone's feeling. Everyone is feeling this, like the time speeding up. But it's always like that. You have to output and then output the next thing and the next thing. It's speedy and it's very fragile. But when you go to a natural based system, you know, you know how long it takes to grow a lemon tree. You know the time and the time in nature, the depth of the time. The cycles are very obvious. If you put a seedling in the ground, you know you're looking at 7 years for that to be happy and producing fruit. You
yeah.
know that like there is a natural cycling of time, which means your imagination operates in the same way. Your
Mm.
imagination has a natural. Have I frozen?
No, no,
Have
you're
I
back. You're
frozen?
back. Yeah.
Your imagination has a natural time cycle.
Yes.
So, and I
It
like with the
remembers.
newspaper that we're now doing, Like I have this innate, because we're in the system, Campbell, I
We're in the
have this
system.
innate like stress point about not meeting our deadlines. But the whole idea of the newspaper is founded in imagination. And so if we look at the newspaper as a lemon tree, you know, that beautiful idea, that beautiful collective, collection of imaginative submissions is going to like take time to
Yeah.
carve out to get the systems working. And we shouldn't feel the urgency. We shouldn't feel the rush. We should feel the enjoyment of planting the seed and
Of
having
the
it
growth.
grow. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so that knowing that in 7 years' time, we're going to have this beautiful version of that newspaper that's going to be like giving beautiful golden fruit that we can't imagine now, but we plant seedling.
Oh, it was just frozen again a bit.
So,
That we can't
are
even
you there?
imagine now, and we're
So,
planting the seeds. I think that's what you're
yeah,
saying.
because what that newspaper, we've planted it. Yeah, we've planted it as a seedling.
Mm.
That newspaper is
You're
a
exactly right.
seedling,
It's got
and
three
now it's got
leaves
to
at the
grow.
moment. Yeah, yeah.
3 leaves, that's right. So if we miss our deadline, it's not because we're not working hard. It's simply because the flow has, for whatever reason, has taken 2 weeks longer. And so everyone who subscribes to the input, don't panic. Don't panic if you get, a couple of weeks late or then the next one's early. Don't panic because we are just planting a seedling. And that's the nature of nonsense. That is literally the nature of nonsense. And that is the pathway. Everything that TA is going to carve out
Mm.
takes time.
Yeah, and it doesn't move in straight lines, right? Again, that's the system. That's the binary. That's the whole, yeah,
Mm.
extractive. We need curves and cycles and lumps and bumps,
Yeah, which we get.
which we are getting. We are experiencing them.
You know, and there might, if we follow the notion of elementary, there might be seasons that happen where, we're in a drought cycle, and it gets a little bit harder and a little bit tougher. But then it shifts, and then we're in a state of total regeneration, and whoosh, 1,000 new sprouts just happen like that. I've
Mm,
watched it time and time. I've watched the bushfires destroy everything, and then, a week later, with a little bit of rain, there's green sprouts everywhere. I've watched a lemon tree not move for 2 years. It just stays where it is, kind of stagnant, like alive but not growing. And then one season, and that thing it grows a meter.
mm,
And so we've lost touch with that flow when it comes to imagination in the extractive system. We've lost touch. We're all about product now, 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 now. There's no natural, you're on the timeline of the dead that have no time.
mm. It's true. Yes, I agree. That was a good little talk. I don't know what I can add to that,
No,
but
it's totally true. So I guess this like little podcast is simply to kind of give you a kind of an updated summary with where we sit now with this idea of sovereignty up against a binary system and a relational system. And speaking about it in these sorts of words, Cam, doesn't it just start to make really obvious sense?
yeah,
Like
well,
it just
totally. I mean, it's the same as, babies, right? Babies that get fed by nature from straight from their mothers, they grow faster, they get sick less, they're stronger, they, what's the word, progress quicker than the ones who go from the system, the
yeah.
powdered milk, right? And we can see that there's stats on that, and that's a perfect example of, what are you feeding on, and what are the results, right? The more you feed on the extractive system, the more it extracts from you.
Mm.
Hence, you don't grow as fast,
Mm.
you're not as strong.
Yeah. So I guess within the system itself, like pull out, you be the extractor. I guess that's another point to make. Like
Yeah,
you become the extractor.
the
If you're
extractor.
if you're bound
Sounds like
to
a
the
good movie.
system currently, then extract from it what you want. Don't attempt to extract things that is not going to give you um, a better experience of existence.
Mm,
Like, for example, Cam and I obviously we're launching this next idea, and within that idea, we have set up a PMA, and we're moving towards working within the private within system. And from that, we are going to extract the best of our understanding of what's the best way forward within the system that still binds us to the system, but within it, we get 98% of our freedom back. But still, we're not being extracted from the system. We're in fact extracting from it with this move. So that's another like layer of maturity as we get into 2026. And I tell you what, like this year, it's going to move quick. There's going to be so much, and isn't it that extraction and distraction, like the iractions, the reactions, the reaction, all those words are very similar, and it's super speedy. But like as we as a community move away from it physically, time will start to click back into the
Yeah.
natural system, and it will
Yeah.
slow
It will
down
slow
again.
down, yeah, like we've
Yeah,
talked about before, and it
yeah,
does. We've experienced this a lot on the farm, but yeah, because you've got less things to focus on, right? And they're more fun, so you've got more time for conversations. All these things happen, right? Because you're not running around like and checking your phone and having to go to work and alarm bells, and so it's definitely doable. Sovereignty's out there. But it's all to do with decisions, right? And I just wanted to mention too that, with the system, it is how you look at it. We know many people that are very successful in the system and have created a lot of good, a lot of great experiences and helped a lot of people. So, you can do that as well, right? Because it's all in the end to do with how you're looking at it. How are you looking at this whole thing called life, right? And where are you putting your attention? Because that's what's going to create your reality, right? The things that
yeah.
matter become the things that matter, right?
Yeah.
That
And
matter.
I literally think the people who are around us, who are super successful within the system, they are super successful because for whatever reason, they have a natural passion that leads them through a pathway within the system that turns them on, like
Yeah.
that gives them energy and that's supporting their vision. It literally turns them on.
Mm.
And so that is a success story through the system. But
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
same people have also attempted to claim their sovereignty in regards to speeding fines and traffic tickets, and we all know who we're talking about here.
Not
Um,
looking at anybody in particular, no?
who have totally miserably failed. And it's ended up costing, like, honestly, I think like 10 grand and just cause stress.
Mm.
And so, anyway, I think we've gone on and made the point
I
here
know, right?
clearly.
I'm just thinking of it going, yeah. So if you are still with us, like 4.5 hours into this podcast, um, and you're in Queensland, come to Rockhampton, 28th February, tickets, tartariaaustralia.com. It's going to be awesome. We're leaving on Thursday, so we'll be up there for a few days. We'll hang out after the show, have a walk around, or do something on Sunday. So you can catch a train up. I think we said that before. Yes, come and join us.
I mean, it's interesting with Rockhampton, like from a system basis, we would never go to Rockhampton because
No.
Rockhampton doesn't have the people. It's expensive to get for us to get up there. The like if we went system orientated on this one, we would probably do two shows every year and make them really big in a highly populated area. But because you and I are following the path of our imaginations and our relationships, we are wanting to move towards things that may not make economical sense, but put us in relationship so that we're going to, whoever turns up, we're going to be in a space together for a couple of days. It's just going to be all about relationship. We have an amazing show planned, but like, most importantly, we're just going to be in commune, right? We're going to just hold space in commune. And that's what the whole thing purpose is.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
sort of that is moving within the flow of the natural world within the extractive system.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So yeah, 7 shows, and well, we're not any. Maybe Melbourne might be in the city, but who knows? We're going to where we feel we should go because it's about the relationships. It's about the conversations. It's about meeting people on your level and everything that comes from that. Because we've seen it so often, right? People will randomly meet. Like we've still got people in Melbourne from the show in 2021 who still meet up every week. Like it's crazy. So yes, come and join us, We definitely would love to sell out, but the other side is the less people there, the more, conversations and
The more
closer
intimate.
relationships we get to build, right?
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
much more about who is there, right? rather than how
Who
many.
has found their way
Who is
through
gone?
the extractive system to come and form relationship with us? Who are those people? I can't wait to meet you all. And that's happening in a week. So, all right, Campbell,
Do
interesting
that.
show today.
Yes. Hope you enjoyed it. Get the newspaper too, everything, tartariaustralia.com. And we'll
Ooh,
speak to you. Well, what?
and public notice, Campbell,
Public
we
notice.
are changing the name of the newspaper.
Oh, are we telling it
Oh,
now? Are we going to? Or are we going to
well,
keep
we
that?
will. Well,
Some people
it's
already know. We've had a board meeting with our board, our newspaper board.
yeah, and you know how we formed a newspaper board?
Why don't you tell the beautiful
Well, I
people?
mean, this is just an imaginative, this is the relational imaginative system working with an extractive system. We invited the first 20 subscribers to the newspaper who were the first 20 to come and join, and we say board, but basically form a container around
Council.
us. Council, yeah, because around having a council around any idea is really fantastic because that's
Oh,
its innovation. And Campbell and I tried this technique the other day about, it was a visualization technique, and I did it on my way home. And I was like, how can we expand this newspaper so it connects with the communities worldwide? And the very first thing, very strongly, that came into my mind without even a pause or even a second between my question and the answer was change the name. So we had our
we
first
have.
board meeting and said, all right, hell, what do you guys think of this? Should we change the name? And so, yeah, so the name is changing. So the next, not the one you're about to get in the mail, but the next
We're
is
going to
will
tell
have its
them.
new
Yeah,
masthead.
so let's not
Okay, yeah,
tell them.
sure. Well,
No,
yeah,
no, let's keep them in suspenders for a while.
all right, okay. All right, cool.
If
Well,
you
the
want to know,
next
you have to subscribe, tartariaustralia.com.
But if you have any ideas for a name change without being biased to what we've come up with, like put them in the comments. We're
Yeah.
very, very open to hearing everyone's thoughts on the new name for
Mm.
what should become the greatest tree trunk of a newspaper for people like us who are living in alignment with the natural world and curiosity. It's going to become that. It's just how it's going to
Exactly.
become. So, yeah, love to
Oh,
hear your thoughts in the
beautiful knowledge,
comments.
right? Maybe
What
we
would
should
you
call
do
it
with the name?
Yggdrasil. But yes, let us know. And guys, first time ever, like, please
Yeah,
subscribe.
we
What we
never
never
say that.
ever say. And you can even hype videos apparently now, so do that.
All right,
Share it
do that
around.
too.
Yes, help us get out there.
All right, love you
And stay
guys.
awesome.
Have a
Yes.
beautiful weekend. See you next week on Tartaria, Australia.
Bye for now.